Codex Gigas. They named it the Devil's Bible for a reason, because somewhere inside this book, 10 pages were cut out, and whatever was written there was never seen again. It rests behind bulletproof glass in the National Library of Sweden. It is colossal. It is terrifying. To simply lift it requires the strength of 2 grown men. It stands 3 feet tall and weighs 165 pounds. It is the largest surviving medieval manuscript in the world, but it is not its size that draws millions of visitors. It is not the beautiful calligraphy or the ancient texts preserved within its pages. People come to see the evil hiding in plain sight. On page 290, staring back at you with green claws, horned duality, and a smirk that has chilled the blood of believers for 800 years, is the devil himself. This is the Codex Gigas, the giant book. But history knows it by a darker name, the Devil's Bible. Legend says it was written in a single night. Logic says that is impossible. But when you look at the evidence, logic begins to crumble. Welcome to the mystery. To understand the book, we must travel back to the early 13th century, to the Benedictine monastery of Podlajic, in what is now the Czech Republic, a place of silence, a place of worship, and the home of a monk named Herman the Recluse. Herman was not a holy man, not anymore. He had broken his sacred vows. His sin was so heinous, so unforgivable, that the monastery bishop sentenced him to the ultimate punishment. He was to be walled up alive. Imagine the terror. Stone by stone, the light fading, the air growing thin, a slow, agonizing death in total darkness. Herman, desperate and terrified, fell to his knees. He begged for mercy. He made a proposal. To honor the monastery and to wash away his sins, he promised to write a book. Not just any book. A book containing all earthly knowledge, the Bible, history, medicine, magic, and he promised to finish it in one single night. The bishop, perhaps mocking him, agreed. If Herman could finish by sunrise, he would live. Herman began to write, but as the candle burned low and midnight approached, his hand cramped. The ink ran dry. The task was impossible. He realized he could not finish. He would die in that wall. So in his despair, Herman did not pray to God. God had already turned his back. Herman looked into the shadows, and he whispered a prayer to the fallen one, Lucifer. The legend says the room turned ice cold. The shadows coalesced. The deal was struck. His soul, for the book. The devil took the pen, and by sunrise the Codex Gigas was complete. Let us step away from the legend for a moment and look at the physical reality of this monster. The Codex is not paper. It is vellum, animal skin. To create the pages for a book this size, it is estimated that 160 donkeys had to be slaughtered, 160 lives, for one book. Inside, the content is overwhelming. It contains the entire Latin Vulgate Bible. But that is just the beginning. It also holds the Antiquities of the Jews by Josephus, the Etymologies by Isidore of Seville, works on history, works on physiology. And then, things get strange. Sandwiched between the holy texts are medical cures, spells for protection against epilepsy, magic formulas to track down thieves, a chaotic mix of the holy and the profane. And there is the layout. The handwriting is consistent, the illuminations are vibrant. But then, turn to page 290. There he is, a massive, full-page illustration of Satan, depicted alone, floating in an empty white space between 2 towers. He wears an ermine loincloth, a symbol of royalty, the Prince of Darkness. This portrait is unique in medieval history. Usually, the devil is shown small, being crushed by saints. Here, he is the king. And directly opposite the devil, on the facing page, is an image of the heavenly city, Jerusalem, heaven and hell, staring at each other across the spine of the book. But there is something missing. The Codex originally had 320 leaves. Today, there are only 310, 10 pages, sliced out of the binding centuries ago. Some say they contained the monastery's rules. Others believe they held the devil's prayer, the incantation used to summon Lucifer himself. Whoever took them, took the secret with them. Those pages have never been found. For centuries, the legend of a single night was dismissed as a fairy tale, a scary story used to keep young monks in line. But in the modern era, scientists and paleographers decided to put the Codex to the test. They wanted to prove that this was the work of many scribes, working over many years. They took the book to the National Library. They used ultraviolet light. They analyzed the ink. They studied the handwriting style, the ductus. What they found terrified them. Usually, when a book is written by multiple scribes, you can see the difference. One presses harder. One loops their letter forms differently. In the Codex Gigas, the handwriting is identical from the first page to the last. Whether it is the Old Testament or the magic spells, the style never changes. Paleographer Michael Gulick confirmed it. There is no evidence of a second hand. Furthermore, a scribe's handwriting changes as they age. Over years, a hand grows shaky, vision fails, disease sets in. The Codex shows none of this. The writing is as firm and precise on the last page as it is on the first. It looks as if it were written in a single burst of energy. National Geographic conducted a time and motion study. They reproduced the script to see how long it would actually take. If a person wrote for 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, without stopping to think, without stopping to mix ink or sharpen a quill, it would take 20 years to write the text alone. Include the complex illustrations? 30 years. 30 years of one man's life. How does a single man spend 30 years writing a book without his handwriting changing, without aging, without making a mistake? Did Herman possess a superhuman focus, or was he guided by a hand that does not tire? The Codex Gigas has traveled a bloody path. It survived the destruction of the monastery at Podlazhitz. It was pawned by monks who went bankrupt. It was stolen by the Swedish army as war booty during the 30 Years' War. In 1697, a massive fire consumed the royal castle in Stockholm. The Codex was trapped inside. In a panic, servants threw the massive book out of a high window to save it from the flames. It landed on a bystander, allegedly injuring him severely. It seems chaos follows the book wherever it goes. Today, it sits quietly in Stockholm. The pages are turning yellow. The ink is fading slightly, but the legend remains vibrant. Science tells us it was the work of a lifetime, a dedicated, perhaps obsessive monk who gave his entire existence to one project. Legend tells us it was the work of a single night, a desperate soul who traded eternity for survival. When you look at the sheer scale of it, when you see the unwavering precision of the letters, and when you stare into the eyes of the devil on page 290, you have to ask yourself one question. Is it possible for a human to create perfection? Or do we sometimes need a little help from the other side? The devil is in the details, and in the Codex Gigas, he is also on the page.